Hello. There are all types of ways to visualize data, more and more so every year as we get new improvements in technology. And I'd like to show how to visualize data in a little different way than typical bar graphs or line graphs. And you can see the chart here is what you may call a circle graph or a bubble chart, and it visualizes climate data or precipitation data, and I'll show you how to do this. It's not a very straightforward method in Microsoft Excel, but it doesn't take too long to make a fairly effective chart. So we'll start with the data. Here's actually the final product showing how dry it was in December for southwestern Oregon or southern Oregon and northern California in 2011. And you can see the orangish circles representing the actual precipitation and the green representing the normal precipitation for December. And it you can gauge that it has been a very, very dry December here. Okay, so we'll start with the data that goes into this chart. So for the data, you can get your climate data from wherever you need, but I will go to the National Weather Service office in Medford homepage. Click on Climate, Monthly Weather Summary, and we'll go to December. And here you can, I'm just going to show one of these sites, but you can see 0.94 inches observed for the month of December, and then the normal is 3.49 inches of precipitation. So we'll go back to the Excel chart, and you can get all the sites you want here, the actual precipitation and then the normal precipitation. And I will note that these charts, the way I tested it, every site that I showed was below normal. So it helps probably if there's consistency across the sites in terms of if they're all below normal or above normal. Here you can see percentage of normal. They're all below 100%, well below. Now, you have to align the data. You can see the way I've aligned it here. That's how it worked for me after some trial and error and looking on various sites, never quite finding a perfect tutorial, and that's why I'm trying to do this. But basically, here you can see Medford, you have the actual and then normal. Mount Shasta City, actual, normal. Klamath Falls, actual, normal, and so forth and so on. This represents the value on the x-axis. I'm sorry, the y-axis. So you all want the bubbles on the same y-axis. And I'll go back to the actual chart. You can see you want the bubbles all to be lined up next to each other for maximum effect. And then this represents the value on the x-axis. So you can see the bubbles for Medford, you want both at 6.5, so they're on top of each other. Mount Shasta City, so forth and so on. And this takes a little bit of figuring out to make sure they're lined up nicely or separated by just enough amount. So now that we have our data, for instance, I will highlight these two, insert, other charts, bubble. Okay, so this is what you come up with initially. Some post-processing to be done here. So we'll go to right-click on the chart, select data. We're going to edit this. And we're going to call the first series name Medford Normal. We want the X value to be 6.5 there. We want the Y value to be 0. And we want the bubble size to be equivalent to the actual or the normal precipitation value, 3.49. So that takes care of one bubble. So I'm going to push OK. Now I'm going to add, and this time Medford actual. X value, again, we want it to be 6.5, so it's on top of the other bubble. We want the Y value to be 0, again, to make them on top of each other. And then the bubble size will be relative to the actual precipitation. So you can see the bubble is smaller. Now we're going to push OK. And let's add 2 more just to give you an idea. This time we'll choose series name Mount Shasta Normal. X value, we want it to be 3.2. Y value, we always want it to be 0. Bubble size, next this larger normal amount. Push OK, and we're going to add 1 more. That's going to be Mount Shasta actual. Series X value, 3.2. Y value, 0. And the actual value, magnitude of the actual precipitation. So you can see the bubble is much smaller. So there you go. That's basically how and you can do those for as many sites as you want. You're going to have to adjust the X value to make sure they're separated enough. And now I'll push OK. A couple things you can do here. Of course, the chart, if I look back at the final product, these kind of look like olives. So, I realize that maybe after the fact, so you could choose different colors, but chose orange because it represents maybe dry, and green because it represents normal or wet or precipitation. But you can choose these colors any way you want. Right-click or left-click on the circle, right-click, Format Data Series, and Fill. So we're going to change this to, red or something. Okay. Next option you have is to size represents area of bubbles or width. I thought width would be more representative. It would distinguish the very dry actual precipitation to the normal. So I chose that, and you can see the bubbles get smaller on the inside. Areas maybe, given we're dealing with circles, it's maybe a little more abstract. So width is what I chose, and you can make this bigger. So if you have a very dry period, which Mount Shasta had 0.33 inches and normal 7.85, it really highlights that for the user. Okay, you still have all these lines here. So, you can tell users, describe to them in a different way other than having a legend. You can see here I say that orange circles represent actual precipitation, so I chose to delete the legend. Then you go up to page layout, design layout here, and go to axis titles. You want to make sure they're none, and axes, none. and none. So now we're just left with some grid lines. So I don't want any grid lines. And now you have a blank chart. You can insert text, however you want. Adjust the font, as you're probably already aware of how to do that. And after a little bit more manipulation and editing, you can end up with basically a plot that indicates normal, actual, percent of normal, and then again highlights those areas that are very dry, which include all these sites. And so hope that made circle charts a little easier to accomplish, and I think they're kind of an interesting way to view data as opposed to the normal bar graphs and line or scatter plots. Thanks for your time.